I grew up on a small farm, the kind of place where mornings started with the crowing of roosters and the earthy smell of hay filled the air long before the sun touched the fields. Life was simple there, but it was never easy. Every day was a rhythm of work, feeding animals, repairing fences, stacking bales of hay, and tending to the endless needs of the farm. Yet, amidst all that hard labor, there was one constant joy that made it all worthwhile: my horse, Daisy. Daisy wasn't just any horse. She was a tall chestnut mare with a streak of white running down her nose and a fiery spirit that made her stand out from the rest. She had eyes so deep and intelligent that sometimes I swore she understood me better than most people. From the moment she came into my life, she wasn't just livestock, she was family. I remember the first time I ever rode her alone. I must have been about 15, nervous but determined. Daisy trotted beneath me as if she knew I was learning, careful not to throw me off balance. And when I laughed, half in fear, half in joy, she flicked her ears back as if listening, as though she wanted to make sure I was okay. That day, I realized she wasn't simply carrying me, she was carrying my trust. Years passed and Daisy became my shadow. Wherever I went on the farm, she'd follow if given the chance. She learned the sound of my whistle, the call of my voice, and even the rhythm of my boots crunching along the gravel path. When the days were long and exhausting, I'd lean against her warm side in the barn, feeling her steady breath calm my own. People often say horses are creatures of instinct, but Daisy was more than that. She was a friend. I'd talk to her when no one else was around, spilling out worries and dreams into the quiet barn air. She never judged, never interrupted. She'd just stand there, her soft eyes fixed on me. And somehow, that was enough. One thing I always admired about horses, especially Daisy, was their uncanny sense of direction. Old farmers used to say, "A horse knows his way home better than most men." I never paid much attention to that saying, at least not until the summer when everything changed. It was late June, the air heavy with heat and the scent of wildflowers. I decided to take Daisy out for a long ride across the open fields and into the woods beyond. It wasn't unusual. We'd done it dozens of times before. But that day felt different, though I couldn't say why. Maybe it was the restless way Daisy tossed her head as I saddled her, or the way the wind picked up, carrying with it a stormy smell from the west. "Easy, girl," I whispered, patting her neck. "It's just another ride." We set out, her hooves drumming against the earth in a steady rhythm, the field stretching golden around us. The sky was a perfect blue at first, but as we reached the woods, clouds began to gather, thick and dark. Still, I pressed on. Daisy was strong, and I trusted her. We had always found our way back, no matter how far we went. But sometimes, trust is tested in ways you can never predict. The storm came faster than I had expected. By the time Daisy and I were deep within the woods, the sky had turned a bruised shade of gray, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Thunder rumbled in the distance, low and threatening, and Daisy's ears flicked nervously. "Easy, girl," I murmured, tightening my hold on the reins. "We'll head back soon." But the storm didn't wait. A sharp crack of thunder rolled overhead, and lightning flashed so close it lit the trees in a blinding white. Daisy reared, neighing in panic, and before I could steady her, she bolted. "Daisy!" I shouted, yanking on the reins, but it was no use. She tore through the underbrush with a wild speed, branches whipping past, my heart pounding as I clung to the saddle. I tried to calm her, tried to bring her under control, but another boom of thunder sent her veering sharply. My foot slipped from the stirrup, and in a desperate moment, I lost my balance. I hit the ground hard. The breath rushed out of me in a painful gasp. For a moment, all I could do was lie there, stunned, the rain pouring down around me. When I finally pushed myself up, coughing and aching, Daisy was gone.
The woods were eerily quiet except for the drumming of the rain and the distant roll of thunder. I scrambled to my feet, ignoring the sting in my ribs. "Daisy!" I called, my voice breaking through the storm. "Daisy, come back!" But there was no answering whinny, no sound of hooves, just the endless forest stretching in every direction. Panic clawed at my chest. I staggered through the trees, shouting her name again and again, my voice hoarse from the effort. Every shadow seemed to move, every gust of wind carried false hope. But Daisy was gone. I searched until the storm passed, drenched to the bone, stumbling over roots and rocks in the dim light. By the time night fell, I was exhausted and forced to make my way home alone, empty-handed. The sight of the farm in the distance, once a comfort, felt hollow without her. When I stumbled into the barn, the empty stall hit me harder than the fall had. My family tried to reassure me. My father placed a hand on my shoulder. "She's a smart horse," he said firmly. "If any animal can find its way home, it's Daisy." But his words did little to ease the gnawing worry inside me. The next morning, I saddled another horse and rode out again, determined to find her. The woods were thick and confusing, but I retraced every path I thought she might have taken. I called her name until my throat burned. I searched the meadows, the streams, even the far side of the hills. Days blurred together in a haze of desperation. Neighbors came to help, some on horseback, some on foot. We combed the countryside, following any trail that might lead to her. A set of hoof prints in the mud sparked hope one afternoon, but they faded into nothing near the creek. Another time, I thought I heard her distant whinny, but when I followed the sound, it turned out to be the wind. Nights were the hardest. I lay awake, listening for the familiar sound of hooves outside the barn, imagining her silhouette in the doorway, but the stall stayed empty, and each dawn broke heavier on my heart. By the end of the week, even the neighbors began to lose hope. "She could be anywhere by now," one of them said gently. "Sometimes they don't come back." I refused to believe it. Daisy wasn't just a horse, she was family. I remembered all those times she'd followed me around the farm, the way she listened to my voice, the way she seemed to understand me. I couldn't give up. But as the days stretched on, doubt crept in. What if she was lost forever? What if I never saw her again? Still, a part of me clung desperately to the old saying, "A horse always knows the way home." And deep down, I prayed it was true. It had been nearly 10 days since Daisy vanished into the woods. Each day felt heavier than the last, filled with the hollow ache of hope slipping through my fingers. I had scoured every field, every creek, every path she might have taken. My hands were calloused from holding reins and ropes, my boots worn from endless trudging through mud and overgrown trails. Yet not a single sign of her. I had begun to reconcile myself to the possibility that she might never return. But in the quiet of the barn one evening, I found myself whispering her name again, almost as a ritual, almost as a prayer. "Daisy, come home, girl," I murmured, pressing my hands together, staring at the empty stall. Then, just as the sun was beginning to set, I heard it. A sound so faint I thought I imagined it at first. A soft, familiar clip-clop on the gravel outside. My heart leapt. I froze, straining to listen. There it was again, louder this time. Hooves, steady and deliberate. My breath caught in my throat. Could it really be her? I rushed to the barn door, swinging it open, and there she stood. Daisy. Mud-splattered, mane-tangled, but unmistakably hers. She had returned. She lowered her head slowly, as if exhausted from a long journey, yet her eyes held the same intelligence, the same spirit that had captured my heart years ago. "Daisy!" I shouted, voice trembling. I ran toward her, my arms wide, tears streaming down my face. She didn't shy away. Instead, she nuzzled me gently, her warm breath washing over my cheeks, her body leaning into mine as if to say, "I'm home." I held her there for what felt like hours, my hands tracing her sides, my forehead pressed against hers. I whispered apologies, reassurances, and endless words of love. She had survived the storm, the woods, the wild unknown, and now she was home. That night, I cleaned her up as best I could, brushing out the dirt and tangles, feeding her warm oats, and tucking her into the stall she knew as her own. She stood quietly beside me, as if understanding that the ordeal was over, as if she too felt the relief that coursed through my veins. I couldn't stop thinking about the journey she must have made, the paths she'd remembered, the obstacles she'd navigated, the instinct that had guided her through the unknown. The old saying echoed in my mind, "A horse always knows the way home." And for Daisy, it had been true. In the days that followed, the farm returned to its normal rhythm. Yet something had changed. There was a deeper bond now, an unspoken respect and trust between us that no words could capture. Daisy and I had faced fear and separation together, and we had come out the other side stronger. Sometimes, when I ride her across the fields, I think of those 10 days and marvel at her resilience. I know now that her loyalty isn't just instinct. It's a connection that transcends fear, distance, and uncertainty. And every time she flicks her ears at the sound of my voice or nuzzles my hand in quiet understanding, I'm reminded of the magic of that bond, the magic of home. Daisy had gone out into the world, faced the unknown, and found her way back, not just to the farm, but to the heart that had always belonged to her. And as the sun sets over the golden fields, I whispered to the wind, grateful beyond words, "Welcome home, Daisy. Welcome home."
Thanks for watching. Don't miss the next story.